Hey guys, it's Q&A Tuesday. I'm gonna jump right into some questions. First question comes from Bilal. And Bilal didn't just write a question, he sent me a piece of artwork. Hey Roman, thanks for always keeping it real. As a token of my appreciation, you'll find an attachment to some artwork of you keeping it real. Okay, you made me look a bit older than I really am, but I guess it works. I do wonder, have you ever been in a situation in which keeping it real had a negative impact on business relationship? Yes, I have been plenty of times, right? There's a few things that I cannot stand, right? I briefly touched upon this a couple of Q&As ago, and boy, did I catch a lot of heat, which was obviously me mentioning the fact that we support our boys in blue, and I talked about how quickly we forget what some of these people do day in, day out. And really quickly, it blew up in the comments, right? Everybody's stating their own opinions in regards to Blue Lives Matters, Black Lives Matters, All Lives Matters, and things of that nature, which was not what that was all about. I had something on my mind, right? I personally feel that my YouTube subscribers are my family, right? And when I have something on my mind, I don't feel I should be holding back and not be able to share some of those things with you guys. And again, not everything that I share, you guys necessarily have to agree on, right? I often tell you guys, these are my opinions, but all that is me simply sharing how I feel based on the current situation going on in our lovely country, which I love dearly, right? I feel we're in a country that's super, super divided right now, right? And all that stuff is being fueled by media, be it social media or regular TV media, newspapers, etc., right? But enough about that. The reason I brought that up is that I've been in a situation like that where my personal beliefs led to loss of business because I won't give up my personal belief for $1 or sell out, so to speak, right? I've been in a situation where I was dealing with somebody and I found out that the person is a bigot, right? And I chose to speak my mind in regards to whatever it might be, right? Whether somebody was being a bigot towards a particular race, a particular religion, et cetera, I don't stand for that shit, and I tell people how I feel about it right away. And when you do that, when you shut somebody up to say, you know what, maybe not so many words, you're a bigot, I don't want to do business with you, but actually let them know that I don't feel the same way, and I don't think you should talk about that in my presence because I don't share the same opinion. Usually you end up not doing business with that particular person, right? I've had a situation where I work with other dealers that put forth a rare watch, specifically a vintage watch, and I was selling it to one of my clients for buku dollars with a good profit, right? Something super rare. But then within the process, I found out that the watch wasn't 100% correct, and that person would come back and say, well, who cares? This is just a small part. Your customer will never know. And I would say, no, I will not do that because eventually will catch up to you. If not today, then 5 years from now. And I wouldn't risk my relationship with my clients over, again, profit, right? Those people also would shy away of doing business with me because they know I won't cross a line, right? And being an immigrant from the former Soviet Union, you know, there's people out there that often didn't want to do business with me because I was from the former Soviet Union and the fact that I was Russian or for whatever reason it may be, right? Doesn't really matter. You know, me telling them who I am is something that basically also, you know, made people shy away from doing business. So this happens all the time, and not just in my business. This is the real world we live in, unfortunately. So if two people are on the opposite sides, they tend not to have any sort of relationship, and this divides it even further, a business relationship or any other relationship if you think about it. Thanks for the artwork, and I hope this sheds a little bit of light into your question. Here's a cool email from a gentleman by the name of Robert. Hey Roman, enjoy all your shows. I wanted to share my watch opening procedure with you. I recently received my latest watch at Patek 5396G-014, otherwise known as my Corona 19 watch. With each watch purchase, I go through this procedure. Meet the FedEx lady, take a picture, get my wife to take a picture as I open the box. And then the best part, my wife puts the watch officially on my wrist and a big kiss. We'll allow the watch to make a grand entrance at a nice restaurant. In this case, it was Carrabba's Italian, LOL, it was the only place open. Over dinner, I talk about the next watch I'm planning to buy. She rolls her eyes. A long time ago, I told her it was watches or women, pick. I now have a rather large watch collection. This reminds me of an old joke. A couple's been married 50 years and, one of the friends asked, listen, guys, what's the secret to your marriage? And the husband goes, well, you know what? When we first got married, I told my wife, that when it comes to all the little decisions, she can make all of them. When it comes to the really, really big decisions, I get to make all the big decisions. We faithfully agreed, and thank God in 50 years of our marriage, we had never had to make a big decision. Thought that was funny. But shout out, Robert, I appreciate it. This is a really cool story. But this brings up an interesting point, and that goes back to all the safety questions you guys always ask. Whenever receiving an expensive package,
that's what she said.
not to fall trap to a brick in a box or fall trap to an empty box to get defrauded, especially when buying watches online. It's actually a good idea to record this, right? So a video probably is a better bet. When you sign for the package and take a video of the package, keep the package on video, open it on video with one continuous video, so that in case there is a brick in the box, you can always have at least something to go back to. Let's say I shipped you a watch, and our company doesn't fraud anybody. We've been doing this for 18 years, but let's see, I send you a box, and I've had cases like this happen to me, actually. I had a vendor who I've done business with for 10, 15 years, right, that sent me a box, and that box ended up being empty, right? Literally, somebody neatly opened up that box, resealed everything. It was actually a Patek 5146, I want to say, right? We're going back about 10, 12 years. I open up the box. I see the box for the watch itself. I see that shipment box, right, that they ship the watches in. The shipment box is empty. I'm thinking, okay, maybe the watch was taken out, put inside the box. I open the box, it's also empty, right? And this is a vendor I've dealt with for 12 years. I know this isn't someone that will screw me, right? But I have video of all that on my packages. Get open on video. I send them the video, say, hey, look what's happening. He went back, and we realized that somewhere along the route, somebody slit that box open, neatly took out the watch, sealed it all back up, and put it back in the truck, or however it happened. I don't remember if the culprit was ever found out, but obviously nobody got hurt, insurance paid, et cetera, et cetera. I appreciate these pictures, Rob. It sounds like you made the right decision. It's a lot cheaper to have a large collection of watches than a large collection of women. And I'm not telling you this firsthand, I can only imagine so. Here's a question from Kieran. Hey, Roman, love your content. You're doing an amazing job. Thank you. I have two questions. My main collection is Rolex, but I've started buying a few Tudors like the 58, Harris Limited Edition, and the GMT, but just to put them into storage. Also never hurts to do more business with an AD. Where do you see values of Tudor going, and how do you see the parent company directing the brand closer to Rolex, eventually becoming the new Submariner entry point, etc.? And the second question is, I've been seeing a lot about Aventi watches. I admire what they have achieved at a price given the sapphire and the movement, but I'm interested to hear if you think they're a buy right now and if the brand has legs. I'll go with the second question first. I just put out a video called The Truth About Aventi Watches. Check that out. Do I think they're a buy? You know how I feel about watches. If it's something you like, buy it, wear it, enjoy it, and don't worry about whether it has legs or not, because this company can be around for another 30 years or it can be around for another 30 months or 30 days. You never know with new companies, right? Having spoken to the owners, I think they certainly have legs to stick around for quite a while. They shook up the market a little bit with their pricing. I've also been privy to some of the things they have in the pipeline and what they're doing. Unfortunately, I can't share that with you because of privacy reasons. It was for my eyes only. I think they're going to be around for a little bit, and hopefully will be successful because they're a great pair of guys. I really enjoyed talking to them, and I really like what they did. Which brings me back to you in terms of having legs. Buying watches just to put into storage, you shouldn't buy, right? Whether it's for the sake of a relationship with an AD, whether it's for the sake that you think that these Tudors are going to be the next Submariner entry point, etc. Told you guys before, Tudor is always going to be in the shadow of Rolex. Rolex themselves will not allow Tudor to catch up to Rolex because Rolex has a certain image and Tudor is that other less expensive Rolex. Will they catch up in terms of pricing? Yes, of course. Inflation, price increases, and things of that nature. Look at what Submariners used to retail for 30 years ago versus where they are today, or the Daytona for that matter, right? So yes, it will become that entry point based on the value, the monetary value, how much the watch is. But if you take into consideration inflation and things of that nature, $8,000 today was a lot less affordable in the 60s, but back in the 60s, $600 or $800, whatever it might be, was also just as not affordable for most, right? Because these are still luxury goods, luxury items. But don't buy things just to put them in storage, thinking that, look, in the future, this thing is going to go up in value and things of that nature. I told you guys before, these things are not an investment. They're just expensive toys. So my suggestion is you take those things out of storage, put them on your wrist, wear them, enjoy them, and don't worry about their value going forward. Hope that answers your question. Next question comes from Taylor. Hey, Roman, wanted to quickly say I really enjoy all of the segments on your channel. Normally Q&As aren't my cup of tea, but your candidness of the industry and watch market makes your content a lot different and very interesting to watch. I recently picked up my first luxury timepiece from an AD, a 11610LN. Congratulations. after delaying my gratification for nearly a decade, and it got me excited about the watch world again. I'm currently debating my next piece, and most pieces in the running are either vintage or discontinued models, so I will likely be going through a dealer such as yourself and Luxury Bazaar. That leads me to my question, where does Luxury Bazaar fit in the secondary watch market? I frequent many forums, and rarely do I see Luxury Bazaar mentioned. Normal recommendations include Bob's Watches, David SW, Watchbox, Swiss Watch Expo. Do online dealers tend to have a niche that they specialize in? Would be great to hear your thoughts from the business perspective, what Luxury Bazaar is doing to become more mainstream, or maybe you guys don't want that much appreciated. Roman? Well, I'm happy you asked me that question because it kind of allows me to unshamefully plug my own business. A little bit of history about Luxury Bazaar. Yeah, you heard me guys mention we're a $100 million plus company a year, which we are. Majority of that business is actually wholesale, and let me explain what that means. It doesn't mean I sell Royal Oaks by the dozen or Pateks by the dozen, or things of that nature. That simply means that most of our business is B2B. So wholesale in our business, meaning me taking a watch and selling it to a dealer. We started out as a only retail company, and then we met a few key individuals that basically told us, guys, why aren't you doing wholesale, right? And wholesale is what keeps the wheel turning, it makes the business bigger. In turn, you make more money, turn product faster, do bigger numbers and things of that nature. And we've done that for quite a few years, leading up to about 2 years ago, where I decided that it's time to take the company back in its original direction, and that is retail, right? With the introduction of jewelry to our website, introduction of fashion watches to our website, accessories and things of that nature, we've gone more retail than anything else. And I'll be happy to tell you that since Corona hit, our retail numbers have now started to outperform our wholesale numbers. But with all that said, that doesn't mean we haven't done huge retail business over the years. We have. I'm not going to compare myself to Bob's Watches or David SW. I know David personally. I know everybody at Watchbox, including the owners. I do know Swiss Watch Expo. All honorable guys, nothing bad to say about them, obviously. Again, the retail business has always been there. And what often happens, especially on the what's on my desk, I'll show a bunch of watches, and the guy's like, well, where the hell are these watches? I want to buy them, and they're not there anymore. It's because they're already sold, right? And the reason they're already sold is I have salespeople that work on commission that do strictly wholesale. So the first thing they want to do is take that watch and quickly flip it to a dealer, make a decent profit, move on, get the next one. So oftentimes the watch won't make it out that way. When it gets to the retail side of things, we have, and I pride myself in this, a lot of repeat clients, right? So oftentimes when a piece walks in here, it doesn't even get to be online as it gets offered to customers that we've had previously. Remember, after 18 years, and especially my sales manager, Anna, who's been with me for 15 out of those 18 years, you tend to have a big Rolodex of clients. If you guys got into my cell phone, you would see millions.
1 million.
The numbers of previous clients that are directly saved into my cell phone. These clients still call my cell phone directly because, again, I started this as a one-man band, and there's still certain clients that would only talk to me, right? And they get upset if I ask them to talk to Anna or Adrian or Devin or anybody else for that matter, right? Some of those watches don't even make it online. They get sold to previous clients right away, which I'm very, very happy with. Now, of course, new client acquisition is a big deal for us. We always try to get out there and obtain new clients. Thanks to my YouTube channel, I've obtained a lot of you guys as new clients, and I'm very, very grateful for that, right? For those that are watching and have recently become my clients, you guys know how we are. We tend to take care of our previous clients, better pricing, opportunity to buy something before it hits the web, et cetera, private offers on things that I may think are right up your alley, and my return business, my margins become much lower, again, because I tell every one of my clients, my goal is not to sell you a watch today, my goal is to sell you a watch 10 years from now, and that's how our retail side of it has been thriving. Specifically the boards. In the very beginning when we first started, the boards were a big deal, and unfortunately, as much as I hate to say it, the boards have become a lot less effective. Plus you have to consider the logistic aspects of it. So we have thousands of items here, right? Jewelry, watches, accessories, fashion watches, fashion jewelry, thousands, literally thousands. Parts of my building literally look like a warehouse, right? Logistically, to be able to get out there, get out on these boards and post all these things on boards becomes next to impossible, and actually becomes not cost prohibitive, but there's no return on it to dedicate a person to sit there and post stuff on the boards, because stuff sells faster before it can get out there. So everything we have is automated. The minute an item comes in, once it goes through accounting, once it goes through inventory, once it goes through content, a button is pressed, and a single watch will go out to our website, it'll go out to our eBay store, it'll go out to Amazon, it will go out to not just one Amazon, but Amazon US, Amazon UK, Amazon JP, Amazon AE, right? Various things. Then it has Overstock, then we have First Dibs, we have Rulala, The Real, who else is there? StockX, right? And a few other major platforms that we deal with where it's all automatically goes on there, allowing us to sell in the volume that we sell. It's very hard to be mainstream like Bob's Watches because Bob's Watches has a niche, and that niche is Rolex, right? Somebody like Watchbox, their niche is pre-owned watches. They're heavy duty into FP Journe. In fact, majority of the FP Journes that I get, I sell to them. But then there's other things that they get and they sell to me because, let's say, they know my specialty is APs. Our specialty has always been higher end stuff, tourbillons, minute repeaters, stuff that's different that nobody else has, right? If you look at our pre-owned section, there's some watches on there that nobody else has online, right? And I strive for that as well. Right. Also, for a while, our specialty has been closeout, so watches, brand new watches at higher than usual discount or less than dealer cost and things of that nature. So we don't really have a niche, even though I mentioned all those things. We do a little bit of everything, and not only across watches, but also jewelry, fashion watches, accessories, and even fashion jewelry, right? Pens, pencils, and wallets and things of that nature. So we're very, very diversified. So it's very hard for me to say that we have a niche. But I will tell you this: the good news is that one of the ways I am starting to move more towards retail is by holding merchandise. Very simple. 10 watches come in today. Those watches are going to be held for 30, 60, 90, up to 120 days, depending on what it is, until a retail customer finds its way to that particular watch. If a retail customer does not find his way to that retail watch, then it goes into a wholesale pool and it starts to get wholesale. This is how I plan on coming out of wholesale, which is here, versus retail, and slowly doing this. By doing so, I'm looking towards, the light at the end of the tunnel for my company. And the light at the end of the tunnel for my company is to sell it, right? I can't sell a wholesale business because a wholesale is me and my business partners, right? Where a retail business can operate outside of immediate owner's involvement once it's a well-oiled machine, which it is, because we're also an IT shop first and foremost, because this is my background, right? So becoming mainstream, yes, this is something everybody wants, of course. And right now we're just working towards switching gears a little bit and changing up our business model to become more mainstream, if you will, Taylor. And I appreciate you asking the question again. It allowed me to bring up the topic that I kind of wanted to talk about, but I didn't want to bluntly throw that in your guys' face. But you asked the question, I gave you the answer. Hope that helps. Here's a question from Ermir. Sorry if I didn't get your name. Hey Roman, many thanks for the videos and your non-BS perspective on an industry full of BS. Thank you. Not quite full of BS, plenty of BS in my industry, but it's not completely full of BS. I have a question about Czapek watches. What do you think about them, and do you have any experience with the brand, watches, quality, etc.? As you know, Czapek used to be the first partner of Patek Philippe before Philippe. The brand went dormant for a few decades and got revived recently. Do you think these name revival brands have any staying power? And do you think this one in particular will ever achieve Patek status? Thanks, and I appreciate the great content. Thanks again, E. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have any experience with Czapek watches. I don't know much about them, except I went on their website and checked them out briefly, right? Obviously figured out the history behind them in terms of them being the first partner. But the real question here is, revive brands. In my experience, I guess it all depends on what you define success as well. Like Graham watches, right, since 1695. It was a revived brand. It sold well for me. I sold it wholesale, but I was buying closeouts. I was selling the stuff at 60 off, 70 off, sometimes even 80 off, depending on the model. It went hot for a little bit and it kind of died down. They never really revived it because they shot themselves in the foot. They didn't have enough of a budget to stay afloat to go with the traditional model of selling off to dealers selling off, and the watches out there selling at a normal discount, let's say 25 to 35% off, right? Most of the time you found those things online less expensive, and then the authorized dealers have had enough and they dropped the lines, and I don't know where Graham is today. Then you have Hublot MDM, right? It's also another revived brand, right? They're doing wonders, right? Hublot is probably the top 5 selling brands out there today. A brand briefly called Krieger, which was another revived brand. I don't know if they're around still today, but they were super hot for 2 to 3 years, sold like hotcakes, and then we kind of forgot about them due to good marketing efforts, right, of an individual that I know that revived that particular brand. So it really all depends on what you define as success. If I'm somebody like the gentleman I knew that revived Krieger, that put an X amount of money into marketing, was successful for 2 to 3 years, and let's say he invested $1 million, and in the 3 to 4 years he ended up making, let's say, $5 million off this particular brand, and then it died. Well, that, to me, that's a success, right? He invested $1 million, in a matter of 3 to 4 years made $5, right? It's a success. It's a monetary success. It's not a success in terms of brands, right? Somebody like Hublot, it's successful in both ways, right? From a watch world perspective as well as a financial perspective. Hublot is making money hand over fist, and at the same time, their watches are popular, right? People are buying them. Somebody like Graham, they were unsuccessful on both ends. both from the watch world and the financial world, because you can still get out there and find grams online 70 to 80% off retail if you tried hard enough, right? There are more grams out there than there are Hublots, right? Which is why I've always said, revive companies, they get out there scream, oh, we've been around since 1695, but what were you doing, from 1750 to 1990? What happened to you guys then, right? It's not uncommon in many businesses to buy name rights to whatever it may be, whether regardless of industry, and to revive something, right? But it's comparable to the hard road of a new business, right? Imagine how hard would it be to open up a brand new watch company. If I tomorrow decided to go out and create a new Swiss brand called Roman Sharf, it would be a very, very difficult and hard road for me, right? Competition out there is fierce. Guys have been around for hundreds of years consistently, not like the revived brands, and that's who I'm competing against. I'm also competing against big groups, Richmond Group, LVMH, the Swatch Group. Very, very difficult space to get into right now, right? Getting a revival company, you do give yourself a little bit of a jump start. So reviving a brand is actually easier versus creating a brand new brand from scratch, right? Because there's still history there. There's some kind of a gimmick, some kind of a marketing technique out there that you can utilize to get your brand not to start from zero, let's say start from 1 or 2. But it's still very, very difficult to compete in the world of luxury watch goods today, right? Which is why you see a lot of companies go up and go down and go up and go down. I don't know how the fact that Czapek used to be the first partner of Patek before Philippe is going to be a bigger help versus another. Again, it depends on how they twist it from a marketing perspective. Will they ever achieve Patek status? No, they will not. There's no brand out there that will reach Patek status. Right? Now, people will argue that Rolex is higher than Patek, Patek is higher than Vacheron, or Vacheron is higher than AP, and vice versa, et cetera, et cetera. It's all a matter of personal opinion, but it's still only one Patek, and there'll only be one Patek, much like Rolex, Vacheron, AP, among other brands, right? Status-wise, Patek has their own status. You would think that AP has the status of Patek. Rolex is number 1 in terms of sales and being recognized, but Patek is still considered to be the Rolls-Royce of the watch world, right? Then you have the Holy Trinity thing and everything else. So it's all labeled differently by you, the consumer, right? But at the end of the day, there can only be one Patek.
There can be only one.
There's no brand out there that's going to ever reach Patek's status, because Patek has a status of their own. The statuses that a lot of these brands have are not something that can be compared. They have different statuses that stand on their own, that only belong to them, much like Patek, much like AP or Vacheron. Czapek may get up there in terms of sales, popularity, and things like that. Status is not a fair word, I feel like, to use within the watch world, especially when you're comparing major manufacturers to upcoming manufacturers, or just major manufacturers between themselves. And as far as staying power, again, it all depends on what they do, how well they do, what they do in regards to their marketing, and what the public will tend to think of their watches once they get traded out, they're worn, reviewed, et cetera, et cetera. Hope that sheds a little bit of light into that question. Got a question here from Baxter. I recently purchased a brand new Breitling Avenger Hurricane 24 from an AD here in UK, paying well below retail, over 30 off, lower even than Chrono 24 prices for the same watch used. Clearly not a popular model in this neck of the woods, even though the 24-hour movement is my favorite. I have several versions, Navitimeter Cosmonaut, for example. As this watch is made from Brelite, a polycarbonate sort of ceramic, I wonder if this in part is the reason for its apparent unpopularity. With the likes of Richard Mille blazing a trail with the use of unconventional and non-traditional case materials, do you think that these more exotic materials would become more widespread, or do you see the industry being very, very conservative in this regard? Collectors seeking comfort in the value of precious metal from which their watch is crafted, or just a matter of new materials and production processes becoming more affordable and accessible within the industry? Thank you again for your informative and entertaining content. Regards, Baxter. Well, thanks for the kind words, Baxter, first and foremost, but I'm going to be very blunt with you, and I'm going to tell you that Breitling makes hundreds of thousands of watches, and Richard Mille makes hundreds of watches, right? It's supply and demand. The biggest issue Breitling has is Breitling goes with the business model of producing a ton of watches, and that's why you see them discounted. Oftentimes, I get a deal of Breitling's where I sell them below dealer cost, brand new, right? Closeouts, right? So Breitling makes a lot of watches. Breitling is popular enough to be able to make a lot of watches, but they still make too much. They haven't found that happy medium where they can do what Rolex does, where Rolex manages to produce hundreds of thousands of watches, yet they know their demand so well that there's still shortage. Where Breitling is sort of following the same model, and Omega is sort of doing the same thing. They produce. At the end of the day, they still sell out, but their stuff discounts and discount greatly. Nothing to do with the material of the watch. It simply has to do with numbers. too many Breitlings, not enough richer meals out there. Of course, the price points are quite different, but I see where you're going with the use of materials. Are these exotic materials going to become more widespread? Yes, I told you guys before, everybody follows suit, you know. When the crystal watch came out, everybody, their mother went and made a crystal watch. You know, when Audemars started using ceramic, everybody started using ceramic. Audemars did carbon, people follow suit on carbon. Rolex came out with this ever rose gold. Different manufacturers started making different types of golds, even though it's still gold. Do collectors really seek comfort in watches that are made out of precious materials when they're buying something really expensive? That's a false sense of comfort. I've told you guys numerous times, if you took a brand new modern gold watch out there, or even if you look at the discounted value, let's say you bought the watch at 30% off, it will never even come close to the value of gold in that watch, right? Even the pounder, how much is 450 grams of 18 karat gold today, roughly. The gold is up, so this is a good example, right? So there's roughly $22,000 of gold in that pounder, even though it's really not the same because the movement may weigh something, other parts that are not gold weigh something, and things of that nature. And worse that you will never find that watch for $22,000. The watch trades today in the 50s, so it's double, sometimes 2.5 times the gold value. Again, gold is up right now, so, you know, probably a good time to actually do this exercise. So the comfort of precious metals is a false comfort, so to speak, because again, your watch is always worth a lot more. However, with everything going on in 2020, right, with COVID, riots, something just exploded in Beirut, all kinds of crazy things that happened in 2020. Supposedly there's an asteroid heading our way, killer bugs, blah, 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 right? Everybody can't wait for 2020 to be over. Let's say if shit did hit the fan and we hit the zombie apocalypse, right? A gold watch at the end of the day will still be gold. So if there's no value in terms of the watch, at least there is 20 grand worth of gold in there. But then I feel like if we do ever hit the zombie apocalypse, it's going to be irrelevant because money is going to become irrelevant, right? Again, all jokes aside, yes, there is still that value of gold in a watch, but the zombie apocalypse is not coming. The world is not ending. In no world will you ever sell off a gold watch for the value of its gold, unless you're talking about something really old, antique. That happens every day. There are watches out there that lose their value entirely. Some old dinky Art Deco watches that are worth their weight in gold. Regular watches out there are always going to be worth more than gold. Hope this sheds a little bit of light into your questions. Guys, I'm going to wrap this one up here. I appreciate all your questions. Remember, continue sending your questions to romansharf@luxurybazaar.com. This is what makes this show possible. As always, like, subscribe, and don't forget to share this video with your friends because this is what helps my channel grow organically. Other than that, I'll see you guys next Tuesday.